topic that Alex Krauss posted in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group that I asked if he could generously lend to this show because I want to have this conversation with you guys. Being an adult's kind of weird and spending video game money and trying to figure out what money goes where. So he says, anyone else find it funny that people will spend $60 to $100 going out and getting drunk on a weekend, but when you decide to spend, or a day, but when you decide to spend $60 in a game that you get 20 plus hours of fun on, suddenly that's a poor use of your money.
Now, I want to preface this by saying that this is sort of a touchy subject because everyone has different incomes. You know, that's a reality.
Of course.
You were in Portland this last weekend, where apparently drinks cost $2.
It was real nice.
Yep. You will be hard pressed to find a drink costing less than $5 in San Francisco, and people in Australia right now are ripping out their headphones and throwing them into the flaming spider pit because they drinks cost $8 there.
But I wanted to say, take alcohol out of the equation.
No.
I know.
Do we have to?
Bring it back.
That was a really solemn noise.
One of my favorite. I was in a mall food court with Marty before a movie once, and we were late to go up to the movie, and I was throwing away my food, and I had like a little bit of beer left, and I went to throw it away, and Marty literally dove across the table and screamed at me.
Wow.
Marty Gumble.
So anyway, take alcohol out of the equation and pop in anything that you do for fun. Spending $40 to see a movie and eating popcorn and a soda, or going to Max and I had to go to amusement parks and zoos like 6 times in one summer.
It's a long story
for the Comedy Button, but you could spend a lot of money just basically going a couple rides and buying like a big fun canteen with a picture of a pirate on the side.
I mean, if you live in a big city and want to leave your house, you can spend money. Basically, there's like almost nothing you can do in this city that's I can't remember the last time I had a day where I just didn't spend money.
So I guess the discussion here really is like, let's talk about spending money as an adult and how you justify it with games and how you justify it walking across the street. And for example, there's a place across the street called Merrigan's Sandwich Shop. Awesome place. A favorite, probably some of my favorite sandwiches in the city. It's $13.
And when it opened, it was 18.
18. Was it really?
They had 2. You could buy a half sandwich for $9. The price went
That's
down.
insane. It's
Their
$13 for a chicken parm.
Yeah. Okay, it's an expensive
when the
sandwich.
was invented.
But you'd still get an expensive
From humble
sandwich.
beginnings.
Goldfarb, I will throw you down the laundry chute. Okay, I don't know if we have one of those here, but I'll figure it out. Food's expensive. There's that whole thing where if you spend money on like life experiences, like travel, food, concerts, going out, kind of just living, they say that it's generally more satisfying than spending money on like physical stuff and kind of just ownership and possessions. I think it's interesting that games kind of fall in the middle here because they are physical things. I mean, for the most part, they're things that you buy, the things you purchase that are for the most part kind of solitary. You do them at home, but they're also things you experience.
Yeah.
So they fall in this weird middle ground where you want to get the most out of your experience. If you're buying plane tickets to go someplace, you typically don't fly someplace with a $100 ticket or whatever. You don't go there for one day and then come back. I mean, maybe for a work trip or something. But if you're going to travel someplace, you usually want it to be worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the price of admission, if you're paying $60 for a game, you want it to be really somewhat substantial.
Yeah. There's also the types of experiences of the type of game that you play through once and it stays with you forever. Like when people are asking me, what defines video games to you, or what are video games? I immediately start thinking of some of the more gut-wrenching moments in The Last of Us, and I think about that game as a narrative from top to bottom. And it's a game that I tried to replay in HD the first 3 hours of, and then I stopped. And I said, I like this experience once the way it was. But then there's other games that I could go back to forever.
Right.
Like Mario Kart 64 or something like that is one of those games you could plug in and I would play for half an hour right now. Yeah. And it wouldn't be particularly memorable and I'd be laughing for a little bit. But it's not really that same sort of journey, that voyage of doing something from start to finish. It's just sort of a repetitive experience that I enjoy that I can go back to that's kind of comfort food.
Yeah, it's really weird with a lot of games that barring my favorites, I can't vividly remember a lot of games. I'll remember generally if I liked them or didn't like them. But
I remember moments.
I remember moments.
Yeah, they're like dreams in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas certain things the money I spent to go to a Taylor Swift concert a couple months ago, I could have bought a console for. But I adored that night. I will remember that night forever.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot of the games I probably reviewed last year, I can generally remember what I thought of them, but I don't have these concrete memories of them.
It is true this happens all the time where I'll look at something and I'll be like, that's too expensive. and it's like a game, and I'm like, I'm gonna wait for a price drop for that. But then I'll walk. Like I took my wife out to dinner on her birthday, and it was like $200, you know, or $220, and I'm just like, two people had a bottle of wine, and we split 2 appetizers and had a main course each in San Francisco at a very nice restaurant, and it was a wonderful experience. But then I'll turn around and I'll like log into PSN, and I'll be like, $10.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I had that moment buying Uncharted. You know, it was
Yeah.
like $60, and I love how people are like, "You work at IGN, you get games for free," and it's like. The reality is that I get the least amount of free games at IGN anywhere else I've worked because there's a lot of other people here who want to play the games, and it's you know, but if I still like games and I'll buy them. But that said, I was like, I've already played one of these games pretty recently, and one of them I'm kind of lukewarm about, and I don't know, and I'm like, but it's 3 games for $60. Those are some $20 games.
Well, and there's
and
that
I was
weird-
like, I was on the fence about that.
Well, there's that weird thing. There's like such like terrible uses of money, like taking like an Uber during Surge.
Oh,
I
yeah.
spent $20 to get home that I could have, if I would have given an extra half an hour, I could have took a $2 bus.
My taxi home from a Halloween party was $27, you know, and it's like, well, okay. But I don't know, my dad always kind of taught me this thing, which was basically like, if you spend a lot of money on something and then you don't use it and you throw it out, like, then it's a waste. But if you enjoy it, then it doesn't really matter. You
Yeah, and
know?
it's that weird, like, the value proposition of, we were just talking about this, like, if you spend $60 and you get Fallout 4, you're going to play it for hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
If you buy Tomb Raider, you might be done with it in 2 sittings, but that doesn't mean it's a waste of money. It
Yeah.
just means it depends on what you want. And, you
Well,
know,
so,
if
like-
you enjoyed it, it doesn't make it a waste.
Like I bought The Witcher and I didn't get into it, and it's taking up a huge amount of space on my hard drive, and it costs $60, and I look at that like with regret because I'm like, it's like, oh, I wasted $60 on this, and I'm more disappointed that I didn't get into it rather than being like I wasted $60. But it all sort of comes together, you know.
Yeah, reality is video games are really expensive because of this like, crazy emergent medium that doesn't like. It's expensive to go to the movies for 2 hours. You go see a motion picture, it's $12, and everyone loves to complain about that. But like, I don't know. It's funny. We take for granted the fact that the price of admission to video games is hundreds of dollars to get the machine that plays them, and then $60, you know, a pop afterwards.
It's
so
also
it's ironically cheaper.
It's cheaper than it's ever been.
Yep.
I mean, that's the weird thing about it. I remember having a PS1 and a Sega Genesis, like buying games for my Genesis for like $88 each, and this was in the 90s.
And McCaffrey just tweeted out an old like Kmart ad or something.
Yeah, I love
and it
seeing
had
those.
Mario Brothers 3 for $84.99.
I remember I like saved up money for like 3 months, and I bought like Clay Fighter 33 1/3 or whatever, which is a terrible fighting game, and it was $79, and it was like.
Yep.
Or Echo the Dolphin.
Conversely, you can go get a $50 tablet and play Angry Birds or whatever, Clash of Wars or whatever.
Like every now and then I'll see a lady in first class playing an iPad game that has ads in it, and I'm like, that pisses me off more than anything else. Like, all right, you spent $2,000 on your Sky Chair, but you won't spend $1 to remove the ads. Like,
oh, you could be playing Danganronpa right now if you got a Vita.
Exactly.
She could probably afford a Vita.
I don't tell them that because that's how you get kicked
Persona
off
4
the plane.
Dancing All Night's available in stores.
Have you ever played a visual novel?
Anyway,
Yeah,
it's
so
a weird
anyway,
sticky thing.
I think there's no real right answer there, but I'm glad we had that conversation.
That was a good question, though.
It's worth addressing that.
Yeah.